Welcome, folks, to part 2 of our spring Arizona and southern Utah trip. We visit the famous Navajo Bridge and watch Condors soar, see some unique domiciles, and visit an old Mormon farmstead. We watch river rafters braving the Colorado, hike a beautiful Cathedral Wash, and boondock in a magical paradise near the Vermillion Cliffs area. We're picking up here right after we left the baseball game in Peoria, Arizona from the prior episode, and heading north on the I-17 towards Glen Canyon National Recreation Area. Our destination tonight is the Vermillion Cliffs area. It's quite the drive, and we are getting a late start having stopped to watch the ball game. We also see there might be a little weather ahead, further slowing us down. Sure enough, the drive up to Flagstaff on I-17 is getting some snow. We're not big fans of driving in snow, but we didn't really have a lot of choices. Leave us a comment below and let us know what you do in this situation. We arrived in Flagstaff to find a blanket of snow covering the entire area. It was breathtaking. We have driven up the 89 to Page before, and it's a very pretty drive, if a little bumpy in some parts. We passed a bunch of trading posts on the drive, but I'm not sure any of them are open since COVID. Having been a very wet year, a lot of the rivers and washes that are normally dry were flowing pretty good up here. It's getting dark now, so we're going to turn off the camera and we'll pick this up tomorrow morning. We awoke in Lee's Ferry Campground, where we had arrived at about 9 p.m. the prior night. The morning mist shrouded the area in a magical veil, adding even more beauty to the landscape. We didn't get one of the best campsites since we arrived so late, but it was still nice and our view was wonderful. There's no hookups of any sort, but there is water and a dump station seasonally, and the fees are reasonable. Did I mention the views? As this is part of the National Park Service, we won't be putting up the drone here. This area is part of the Glen Canyon National Recreation Area and is absolutely stunning, with towering red rocks against the clear blue skies and wispy white clouds. It makes for a truly breathtaking backdrop. The Colorado River flows through here, and this is the beginning of the Grand Canyon. With so much snow this year, the river was flowing pretty good. Let's head over and see the Navajo Bridge. The Navajo Bridge is a steel arch bridge that spans the Colorado River. It's one of only 7 land crossings of the Colorado River for 750 miles, and it's the 9th highest bridge in the United States. Construction began in 1927, and the bridge was built in just 18 months using a technique called cantilever construction. This means that the bridge was built from both ends until the two sections met in the middle. Originally named the Grand Canyon Bridge, it was renamed Navajo Bridge in 1935 and was closed to vehicles in 1995. Another thing the Navajo Bridge is famous for is the California condor population. The California condor is a critically endangered species and the largest flying birds in North America, with a wingspan of up to 9.5 feet. Condors are scavengers, and they are often seen soaring high in the sky, looking for food. They can also be seen perched on cliffs or on the ground. They are found in a few western states, including California, Arizona, and Utah. The Navajo Bridge is a popular spot to see condors, and they are often flying around the bridge. The condors flying here are part of a reintroduction program that was started in the 1990s. The program has been successful, and there are now over 500 California condors in the wild. Lead poisoning is a major threat to California condors in this area. Condors scavenge on carcasses of animals that have been killed by lead bullets, and they can ingest lead fragments from the carcasses. Lead poisoning can cause a variety of health problems in condors and is often fatal. There's a little museum/gift shop in case you want to buy a souvenir. Dang made friends with Kim and her daughter Amanda, who were also watching the condors. Just about 2 miles from the campground is Balanced Rock, a fascinating natural feature. It's a large boulder that is balanced on a small pedestal, and it's a popular spot for photographers and hikers. The formation of Balanced Rock is thought to have been caused by a combination of erosion and weathering. Over time, the softer rock beneath the boulder was eroded away, leaving the boulder balanced on a smaller, more stable pedestal. The boulder is also protected from further erosion by the overhang of the cliffs above it. I was surprised the campground wasn't fuller than it was. This was a Friday, and after all, it was pretty nice weather. Some of the sights here are really fantastic as they back up right to a river overlook. We had the idea to check out Soap Creek Dispersed camping. We had heard about this and wanted to stay there, but it wasn't convenient to try to drive in during the night when we came in. There's a fence put up by the BLM, but it's not locked and you can open it up and drive in. Just close it after you drive through. There is one wash you have to cross near the entrance, and it's got a little bit of a dip to it, but it wasn't too bad for our trailer. Depending on how low your vehicle is, you might want to watch that. You'll come to a Y in the road, and everything I've heard says that the left branch is a lot rougher with more sharp rocks protruding, so we stayed to the right. We saw several available sites we felt we could get into, and we made a plan to come back out here on Sunday when our reservation ended. The site at the end is really nice, but it's also a much longer drive, and if possible, we were hoping we could find something a little closer to the entrance, as the road was pretty rough. On the way back to camp, we explored the Cliff Dwellers Lodge area. Now you might think, looking at these, they were built by some Native American tribe in the distant past, but that's not the case. In fact, these were built by settlers coming west back in the 1920s and 30s. Yes, that's right, William and Blanche Russell were passing through the area back in the late 20s when their car broke down. They decided since they couldn't get parts for the car, they might as well just stay here. They built these cliff dwellings for passerbys that might need lodging. There's a lodge and a restaurant here as well, and you can make this your base camp if you choose to. Clearly this was not built by ancient Native Americans. dinner that night was a sirloin pot roast. We had some dried shiitake mushrooms, carrots, celery, onions, and of course, lots of garlic. You can't cook this too long, otherwise it'll get tough, so timing was important. We really like this little Instapot. It's a great size for us and doesn't use much power. We've been wanting to check out the lonely Dell Ranch, and that's exactly what we ended up doing the next morning. The ranch was built in the 1870s by John D. Lee, for whom Lee's Ferry is named, to shelter his families. His wife Emma renamed the ranch Lonely Dell based on its austere remoteness. Shortly afterwards, in 1873, Lee started operating his ferry, which was the only place to cross the Colorado River in quite a number of miles. Lee chose this area because the river is most calm here and suitable for crossing. But Lee's time here was brief. He was executed in 1877 for his role in the Mountain Meadows Massacre of 1857, which he helped plan and execute against the Baker-Francher immigrant wagon train. Apparently, the Baker-Francher folks were critical of the Mormon way of life, and this raised tensions, ultimately resulting in the massacre and the deaths of at least 120 of their group. There are a number of orchards on the property, and when the fruits are ripe, you are allowed to pick them, but obviously we were a bit early this trip. We dropped by the river one more time as it was such a nice day and saw some people rafting. That water is pretty cold. Later in the day, we decided to check out the Cathedral Wash hike and see how it was. Cathedral Wash is a short but challenging hike at 3.3 miles round trip and descends into a narrow canyon with towering sandstone walls. The wash is named for Cathedral Rock, a prominent formation at the head of the canyon. The terrain on this hike includes some scrambling and several areas with puddles. While it's not difficult for most people, those with mobility issues or who are not comfortable with uneven terrain may want to consider a different hike. Craggy surfaces were a stark contrast to the soft blue sky and the wispy white clouds. We eventually came across some hikers coming back who informed us that just ahead lay some deep pools that required wading through deep water. As we were not prepared for that, we turned around and headed back, very satisfied with the hike we had done so far. Later, we decided to move camp to Soap Creek Dispersed, which we had scouted earlier. Fortunately, there was a spot quite close to the front which had become available, and we jumped on it. The clouds were rolling in, and it just made it that much more special. That's all for now, folks. We hope you enjoyed this video. We'll be staying in the area for another week to explore more of the amazing sights. In our next video, you'll see us visiting Antelope Canyon X, Horseshoe Bend, and White Pocket. If you enjoyed this video, we hope you will give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us.